Hi and welcome to an introduction to social property investment with me, Amy Varle. Now, thank you so much for joining us on this training course, which I am so excited to deliver because it is really the culmination of about 10 years worth of work for me to be able to put this into now a tangible model and lots of different strategies and systems and procedures and ways of doing things and ways of not doing things. And we're able to band that together now and put that under the bracket of social property investment and move forward with hopefully with the ability to find new solutions to affordable housing challenges that we're facing in the UK. So you probably know already what social property investment is all about, but just in case you want a little refresh before we kick off with the training, we're going to talk a little bit about what is social property investment and how does it differentiate between from other sections of the housing market. So we have the social market, we have the buy-to-let market, we have housing associations, and we've got some new alternative housing models and structures that are coming now, and some quite innovative work that's being done in housing too. So we're going to talk about how does social property investment fit in. And social property investment it's a collaborative strategy, and it's about not just working on your own and looking for your own gain and setting up your own project and doing everything yourself. It's about creating a collaborative model which can benefit numerous parties, and numerous parties can be involved in both putting into the project and taking out of the project too. So social property investment is about utilising the strengths, talents and resources of each of the public, private and third sectors. And it's important to differentiate between the local housing allowance strategy, so what traditionally landlords who would let to tenants who are claiming local housing allowance, which is housing benefit for those in receipt of a low household income. So traditionally landlords would work on the local housing allowance strategy or the LHA strategy. For me, this was a little confusing because when I entered into the marketplace as a social entrepreneur and learned about the LHA strategy, I found there wasn't actually any strategy behind the so-called strategy. There's no manual or guidance or any kind of advice for best practice or how to work to a very good standard in this marketplace. And so I found that investors and landlords and letting agents who were operating within this marketplace, and let's not forget it's a huge marketplace, they're doing that without any support and any guidance, which I find crazy. So I decided to use my own experience with working in the public sector. So I am, for my sins, an ex-council employee, and I spent about 8 years working in the local authority in my hometown, and I worked in a variety of roles ranging from supporting people with learning disabilities towards independence within the local community and their own tenancies, supporting people with mental health challenges, working with asylum seekers and refugees with the UK BA contract for asylum and resettlement, managing property there, which is obviously a very diverse portfolio of property to manage. I worked within the homeless and housing department too, and also spent some time working with trafficked children, which was extremely interesting, and working with children who are being resettled from care too. And as you can see, I've worked in this field for a long time, and it was towards the end of my career with the local authority that I had this brainwave that I thought, this is crazy. I can see we're really dealing with these repercussions of the global financial crash of 2008, and we were seeing within the local authority offices where we worked a huge increase in demand in services. So homelessness was spiraling out of control, and we could see that early on. I mean, I'm talking going back to around 2010, 2011, and we could see working in that environment, we could see the increase in homelessness. We could see the increase in people struggling to manage properties, struggling to manage finances. We were dealing with those repercussions, and we were dealing at the same time with a reduction in the resources that we had available to serve these people. So we were dealing with cuts in budgets and reductions in staff members, and we were having new duties put upon us, and we were having to do twice the amount of work than we had usually been previously been used to having to do. So it was, I could see it was a crisis that was just waiting to happen, and I couldn't understand why we weren't looking more strongly at working with the private rented sector. Now, fast forward quite a few years, and I've been doing this role now. We're just entering into 2017, so I've been here for about 5 years or so in this marketplace now. And I can understand now why there are reservations about working within the private rented sector. And we have some huge challenges to overcome as we attempt to bridge the gap between what is two very, very different marketplaces. And so when I set People's Property Shop up back in 2012, I aimed to bring a bit of my experience from the public sector and bring this into the private sector, and hopefully enable landlords and property agents and investors and those who are working operationally within this marketplace to have a little bit more assistance as they were doing it, and to not feel like they were going it alone. And I thought, why is there not a helpline? Why is there not a designated website for landlords that can help them? And we're berating landlords all the time. The press is always berating landlords, and we're hearing about bad landlords and overcrowding and fines for this and tenants being evicted. And I think, well, that's because they're operating in a marketplace where generally they're dealing with out of remit issues, and they're not qualified or trained or experienced at knowing how to resolve a lot of these issues, and they're doing so without guidance or support a lot of the time. So I decided to bring all that together anyway, and you're going to learn over the course of lots of different training videos now, the journey that we've taken over the last few years and how we've been able to build this model. And what we've done with this model is we've really focused on 3 key elements with the social property investment model. So our first area of attention that we focus on is maximising profit and cost effectiveness. So every investment, property investment or not, it's not going to work if it's not performing as it should be financially. So that's a real key area for us to look at throughout the course of this training. The second area to look at, which for me is almost as important, if not more important than the financial element, is it's protecting your risk. And we do this with social property investment in a number of ways. We look at, firstly, mitigating the risk. So we want to spread the risk. We don't want the risk to all fall on the landlord's shoulders, because we can see from statistics that we've just had a look at in terms of private renting, it's not working out. So we need to get some support in for these property owners and agents and people that are getting involved in the strategy, that may have resources to bring to the table, but they may not have the a complete skill set or the knowledge to be able to work to their full potential within this marketplace. So we want to look at risk reduction, and as I say, we look at doing that via spreading risk, and we also look at reducing risk and minimising the risk by implementing a strategic and quite a methodical way of working. And a lot of the work we do centres around research work and looking at evaluation of other people's research work too, and how can we adapt successful techniques which are in the marketplace and utilise them within the social property investment model. So that's a couple of ways we look at minimising and mitigating risk. And all the way through the training course, we're going to look at different elements of how we do that, whether that's with tenant selection and sourcing and screening, management of your property, protecting things financially and making sure that you have risk assessed your needs properly, and you're not going to be left with a property that's going to sit vacant for a long time and it's not going to perform the way you think it's going to perform. So that's the second area we look at. And the third area, which really happens naturally off the back of all the other things happening, is the making a difference to the lives of people housed. And that really happens if you get the first two right. You're able to put all of these different processes and procedures in place. Then you are able to offer a housing solution which really does make a difference. But you've got to, as I say, look at, firstly, maximising profit and cost effectiveness. Secondly, mitigating and minimising risk. And also a really key area too is looking at how we can utilise the strengths, talents and resources of others, and how can we get them involved, and how can we get them excited, and how can we get them wanting to put value into these projects and make them very successful and sustainable on the long term too. So throughout the course of the training, I'm going to be teaching you all about things I've done over the last few years, and I'm going to be showing you all loads of errors that I've made too, and things that I've done wrong, things that have gone very well, and I'm going to guide you through beginning to end of everything really you should need to know if you want to enter into this marketplace. Now, I should say at this point that this training course is really designed with an advanced investor level in mind. So you probably wouldn't want to enter into this marketplace as an investor if you weren't already active within the property industry and you already were an active landlord and you had good experience of working in buy-to-let. It's, as I say, it's an advanced strategy. It's not for a newcomer. It doesn't mean you wouldn't want to learn about it as a newcomer. Of course, newcomers are more than welcome to come and learn and grow and develop their skill set via our training. And if that's the case and you are a little inexperienced and you don't have previous buy-to-let experience, then you may want to find somebody via our network that you can team up with, somebody who's a little bit more established, but maybe they have a little bit less time on their hands. So as I say, social property investment is all about being creative and forming these collaborative groups that can all bring something to the table. So this training course is to guide you through that. It's to teach you some best practice techniques, to lead you to places that perhaps you haven't been before. And I'm going to be sharing one of the modules we're going to be looking at is all about USA and what they're doing over there. And that's going to bring some really new and innovative techniques over to the UK. And it might spark off, hopefully, some creativity within you and maybe enhance your project in who knows in what way. So just before we start to kick off with the training, I do just want to make a point that this is not professional advice. I'm not giving you investment advice as a financial professional. I'm not qualified in that capacity at all. As you know, my background is I come from local authorities and I have a very background which is very much focused within the social side of things. So please, if you're looking at getting into this marketplace, please do get professional advice from an appropriately qualified person or organisation. So we do talk about it later on in the training, but make sure that you're protecting your own risk at all times. And, you know, potentially you're looking at investing quite large sums of money in this project. So please look at getting advice, whether that be from a financial advisor, somebody who works within brokerage and mortgages, insurance. You may want to talk to a range of specialists, talk to a solicitor, talk to your bank and your financial institutions, but make sure you do protect your risk and take everything, as I say, that we're teaching and I'm leading you with here as a way of going away and creating and innovating. And please get in touch with me if you need any further guidance at all as we work through the training. So there may be elements that you're not quite sure of, and you can always get in touch with me on social media, and I would be, of course, happy to answer any questions that you may have. So thank you for joining us, and we're going to kick off with the first part of the training, which is going to be focused on our pilot scheme research in Manchester. So what happened when we housed over 100 people off the streets into privately rented homes, and we supported them through that process. We're going to talk all about that and the rights and wrongs of the pilot scheme and how you can utilise some of the things we learn for potentially future projects that you may want to set up yourself, or you may want to adapt adapt projects that you already have. So you may have local housing allowance projects already up and running, and you want to streamline things a little bit. You want to enhance them. You want to make your life a little bit easier and a little bit less stress and less paperwork and less chasing around of things. So this is an adaptable model, as I said, and you can go away and use it whichever way you find appropriate. And as I say, just make sure that you are always cautious as you do so, and you do due diligence along the way as you move forward. So I'll see you for the next part, which is research.